Greetings, mathematicians. Here we have the steps to graphing a linear inequality. So the first step that we need to do is graph that line, and this can involve either getting it into that slope-intercept and identifying what is your slope and your y-intercept. And then we also need to keep in mind solid lines versus dashed lines. So if we see less than equal to or greater than equal to, it is going to be a solid line, meaning that any point on that line is a solution. Or it can be a dashed line, so that is less than or greater than, meaning that any ordered pair on that line is not a solution. Okay? And then linear inequalities, we have to determine shading. So we're going to use a test point to determine which section of the graph we need to shade. Okay? So using that test point, okay? So test a point on either side of the line, okay? 0, 0 is usually the easiest because it makes the math really simple. If you get a true statement, you know that the ordered pair is part of the solution, so we're going to shade that side. If you end up with a false statement, we know that it is not part of the answer, so that means that the other side of the line must be shaded. So let's go ahead and do it. So if false, shade the other region. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and graph x plus y is greater than 3. And we're going to go ahead and use those intercepts to help us out, okay? So let's find out what is that x-intercepts, right? So x-intercepts, okay? Basically, we're plugging in 0 for y. So this y, right, is just 0. So look what's left over. We have x. We're going to pretend that this is equals to 3, right? Because we're looking for what is that x-intercept, right? So I'm just left with x equals 3. Okay? There's no equation to really solve here. It's already solved for. So the x-intercept is 3, 0. Okay? Same thing for that y-intercept. Okay? Well, you let x is equal to 0, right? So this kind of just goes away. I'm left with positive y, and again, we're looking for what is that y-intercept. So positive y is equal to 3. So here, we have the y-intercept of 0, 3. Okay. So we have our x-intercept, y-intercept. Let's go ahead and graph. So 3, 0 is over here. 0, 3 is up here. Okay. And then I'm going to look at what is my inequality. So this is greater than, meaning that we have a dashed line. So we're going to go ahead and use that dashed line. Okay. And then the last step that we need to do is we need to determine, am I shading above the line? So am I shading this region right here? Or am I shading below that line? So am I shading this region down here? Okay. So the easiest way to do that is to test the point 0, 0. So test 0, 0. Let's see what happens. So I'm taking that 0, 0 and I'm plugging it in and we see what we get. Well, that's just 0 plus 0 is greater than 3. 0 is greater than 3. That's a false answer. So we know that the point 0, 0 is not a part of the solution, meaning that the solution has to be above that line. So we're going to go ahead and graph. Oops, let's use a different color for that. We're going to go ahead and highlight this region right here. Just like that. All right, the next example that we have, we're going to go ahead and use that slope-intercept form. So we need to graph 2x minus y is greater than or equal to negative 2. So to get it in slope-intercept form, again, that is that y equals mx plus b. So let's write that up here. Let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this 2x to the other side. Those cancel. We have negative y is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 2. Okay? So I have this negative 1 out front. We need to divide by negative 1. Okay, so I'm left with positive y. And since I divided by negative, this inequality has to flip. So we have y is less than or equal to, and then these signs, right, if I divide by a negative number, they just become the opposite, right? Because negative 2 divided by negative 1 is a positive 2x. And then negative 2, same thing, right? We have positive 2. Okay, so now I know my slope and I know my y-intercept. My slope is 2. My y-intercept is also 2. So we're going to go ahead and graph that. My y-intercept is 2 units above. And then we have a slope of 2. So we go up 2 over 1. Okay, so now let's check out the inequality. I see greater than or equal to. That means that we're going to go ahead and use that solid line. So we're going to use a solid line. Just like that. And then same thing, let's test that ordered pair 0, 0. And to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes, I like to plug it back into the original equation. So we're going to test 0, 0 and see what happens. So test 0, 0. Let's see what happens. So we have 2 times 0 is just 0, minus 0 is also 0. So actually, let me write that out. So we have 2 times 0 minus 0 greater than or equal to negative 2. This just is all equal to 0. So 0 is greater than or equal to negative 2. That is a true statement. So this is true, meaning the ordered pair is 0, 0. That is a part of the solution. So we're going to go ahead and shade that region of the graph. So we're going to go ahead and shade this region right here. So the solid line along with the shading, that is our correct solution.